I'm going to show you how to use the console commands and share some of the ones that I find the most useful. I think it's great for testing, solving any bugs you encounter, particularly if you're using a lot of mods. It can also be useful for dynamic difficulty, basically if you didn't get the game settings quite right, but you don't want to just restart a whole new run. You could maybe give the AI some bonuses or give yourself some extra resources. It can also just be fun to mess around with. Of course, this doesn't work if you have Iron Man mode enabled. So to start out, to open the console, hit the tilde key. There's a very helpful menu here that gives you easy access to a bunch of the commands so you don't have to type them all out manually. The first one is debug tooltips, which can be nice to get the IDs of certain things. For example, if you want to know what the ID is for one of the empires. There's some more obvious ones, like being able to disable cooldowns for, say, the galactic community or whatnot. There's a bunch of toggles for instant actions, like instant build is very useful. This way, everything only takes one day to build. There's a toggle to disable the AI. This can be quite useful, especially if you're wanting to test certain battles and stuff. Then there's things like max resources, which will max out all of your resources. If you have instant build enabled when you do this, it sets your resource capacity to a huge number. So if you want millions of resources without having to build silos, that can be nice. On the galaxy map, you can use communications to meet all of the other empires without having to go through their first contacts. You can do survey to fully survey the galaxy. And then once you click on any fleet, it will update the hyperlanes. And if you click Intel, this will give you sensor data so that you can see any fleet and look at it. If you want, you can open up its ship details. So if you wanted to know what some ship designs look like, that is an option. There's this Research All Tech button that gives you a ton of pop-ups. And then you have all of the mainline technology researched. And then these finish options will just finish whatever's currently in the queue. So you have a tech going, finish research. And then once you progress a day, it will finish it. A handy tool is if you press the period key, it will advance the game by just one day. So if you're using something like instant build, you can press that and then your ship will be produced. There's sliders for all of the different resources if you want to choose how much you have. And some other ones like being able to give your leaders a bunch of skills if you want to level them up quickly. There's more that you can get if you actually type into the console. A good one is help if you want a list of all of the console commands. You could also just look up ones if there's a specific thing that you're looking for. A few that I really like to use, there's play. So if you have debug tooltips, you can hover over Empire, see what their index is. This empire is index of 2. So if I hit play and then space and then 2 and then hit enter, I am now playing as that empire. The player empire will always be 0, so it's nice and easy to get back to who you started as. So with that, you could switch over to another empire, disable the AI, build some ships, go to a system, make a custom battle, test out different fleet compositions or whatever. Another one that's really handy, if you have any fleet selected, so you can click on the fleet and then type in damage, and then you can type in how many hull points of damage you want to deal to that fleet. This doesn't affect armor or shields at all, so this ship has 900 hull points. Let's deal 800 damage to it. So most of the fleet died, and these are left with very little health. That can be quite useful for deleting annoying fleets that you don't want to deal with. A similar one is invincible. This will mean that your ships will not take any damage anymore. A really cool one is if you have a controller plugged into your computer, you can type in gamepad. And this will allow you to actually control your camera with your controller. And so you can move around and get angles that are normally not possible. If you hold the right trigger, you can make the camera move extra slowly to get nice panning shots that can be great for screenshots or battle cinematics. Or you can hold down the other trigger to move extra fast. And also, if you want to do that, you can do Control F9, and this will disable all of the UI. So if you make sure you move the cursor out of the way, then now you can do free cam. Another one that's useful, if you want to get intel on another empire, you can do add_intel. Then you add a space, and you put in the ID of the empire you'd like the intel on. So this one is ID 2, and then you do another space, and the amount of intel you want. So let's say 70 intel. Now we started with 10, now we have 80 on them. So then there is create_navy, and you can put in a number to determine how big it is. I'm not sure exactly how it figures out this math. I think it's dependent on the amount of naval capacity that you have. And so like 1 is like 100% of your Navy or something like that, but I don't know exactly how these numbers work. Another one that's really handy is yes men. No space between them. And this will basically make all AI always say yes to you for anything you want to do. So say, for example, you declare war on them, and then you tell them to surrender, and they will just automatically accept whatever you want them to do. After a bit, come on. Oh, right, because the AI are disabled, that would do it. Oops. Another one that's useful is if you have a planet selected and then you type in grow_pops, and then you can set a number. For example, let's put in 1,000. This will add a bunch of pops to your planet. It's a little bit weird how that number works. You'd expect 1,000 would be grow 1,000 pops, but it gave us way more than that. I think it has something to do with the 4.0 changes to making pops bigger. But if you want to very quickly develop your world, get a huge amount of pops, that can be useful. Another thing that's useful is if you use the up arrow key, you can load up previous commands. You can use the down arrow key to go back. So if you want to input the same command over and over again, you can do that really quickly. Arrow key, enter, arrow key, enter, arrow key, enter, and then we can keep doing that, and now our planet is super overpopulated. And there's more that you can do, but these are the ones that I use the most. Of course, the most useful console command is one that's CRASH, and if you go ahead and press enter on that,